You could not live with your own failure.
The Negro still is not free.
We were not brought here to be made citizens.
Doctors injecting our infants with the poison. Religion misunderstood as poison. Radio and TV poison. White Jesus poison.
Unconscionable. With Chuck Valentine
With Chuck
and
Valentine
With Chuck
and J.O.
Valentine and J.O.
We're live.
Welcome to Unconscionable. This is a podcast where we highlight and feature notable and honorable people in our communities that do exemplary things in life and help the community in different aspects and different industries and different ways. And today, my partner Chuck is here, live in effect, with our guest of honor, who happens to be my uncle, Uncle Aubrey
Bruce. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a wonderful night. I am extremely excited to have Aubrey Bruce here, a man who was, to be honest, very instrumental in my development as a man. I'm not going to get too much into that. I'm going to try to stay professional. Hey, to get it started, he's like myself. He's a Pittsburgh native with a strong New York orientation, though. A man who's done everything: music, promotion, activism, journalism, you name it, he's done it. Upstanding citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me with a warm welcome for Aubrey Bruce.
How's my folks is doing today? All right.
Yeah, we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there in the midst of in the midst of MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
But we won't get into that. We try to keep it positive.
I have a positive nickname for them. I'll just share it with you briefly. In the midst of maggots. No, just kidding. Just kidding, guys.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So let's start with the current. Right now, Aubrey is a well-established 30-year. He has a 30-year connection with the Pittsburgh Steelers through journalism. He's been around, a long time, maybe longer than 30 years.
But I've only been credentialed like 30 years.
Okay. So, that's something in itself, because growing up in the city of Pittsburgh, the Steelers were like this mystical organization. And, growing up, I never knew anybody like directly associated with the Steelers. And I know Aubrey well entrenched in the music business, which we'll talk about that later. Tell us how that happened, Aubrey. How did that?
Well,
form?
I played football. I loved it. But the thing about it, the reason why I really became interested in journalism was because of my father, Aubrey Bruce. And I had talked about wanting to play in the NFL, all that stuff. He said, first of all, you have to be a multifaceted man that'll evolve into a multi-talented man. And he said, whatever you do, just complete it. You might not be good at it, but if you say you're going to do something, just complete that task, because you never know where you're going to use it. But I was also augmented by Charles and the rest of my family. His great-grandfather, my father, graduated from college, right? And then my father. So we weren't that family of, we the first one to graduate from college that lived across the tracks. I had like 80 years of academia to go by before I even finished high school. So that made me a little bit more academically astute and alert when it came to the academic and social process, in America. And I also study people from the islands, like where you from, my brother, and my wife, because I admired them because their picture was on the money, right? Whereas in America, they make a big thing about Harriet Tubman's photo being on the dollar bill. Whereas in Jamaica, the Caribbean, the Bahamas, you saw Queen Elizabeth on the money, and you saw the Prime Minister, Perry Christie, all these people that were on the money. So it didn't make you feel less than. Actually, it gave you an incredible sense of well-being, economically anyway. I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of go back and forth with you guys because there's so many things that I'm hoping to discuss with you, and I don't become one track. Whereas Charles kind of knows from experience, I can get locked on. So that's part of my beginning.
Well, it's funny you said that because, when I was sitting back, I was like, well, I know that he's done so much. So how do we approach just having a conversation? And so I know through talking with you over the years that where we live, how we live, and all the associative topics that have an impact on the quality of our lives, all important, all so very important. You've always been an activist to me, no matter where we went. You always were somewhat outspoken. I kind of follow your footsteps. But as a writer, do you think it's hard to, like, okay, when I was coaching, right, I used to tell some of my athletes, whatever sport we're talking about, it parallels
Right,
life,
exactly.
right? So do you find it hard to kind of like leave life out of what you're writing?
Right. In
How do
fact,
you
I
approach
find it
that?
impossible, because there are things that you can peel the layers back in order to gain access to other information. But in the case, if our case of covering racial issues and sports issues, it's not segmented, it's not layered. It's all part of that ball of clay that's sculptured to go into the kiln. So after a sculpture comes out of the kiln, it's already constructed. From that point, you can take water and pour into, that vessel, but you can't reconstruct the vessel. It's already been hardened by times. So this, when I'm talking about generational processes, they say that we have this layer to peel back and all this. Once racism is hardened, you can't peel back the layers anymore. They're all part of that vessel. So what we have to do, I think, in order to address inequality and also to address just the structural equality on our part is to break the vessel, right? Break it and then sculpture another vessel and put it in. But when the vessel's already hardened, you can't restructure it. You can't reshape it. It's not gonna. It's been hardened in the kiln of social and economical ill repute. It's already there. And I don't mean that from a racial
So
perspective. I mean it from a reality perspective. Because I'm sorry, Charles.
no. Joe, you were saying something?
Yeah, so on your come up, especially like during school, were there still places where you had to enter through the back of the facility and drink from
Well,
water
not
fountains
in
that
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh at that time was very progressive. Now now when you come and see the economic and social paradigm in Pittsburgh, it has actually regressed to that point. I went to Arsenal High School, which Arsenal Junior High, which was one of the most prominent junior high schools in the city. And then I went to Shenley High School for high school, and it was the first computer program in American history, not black or white. It was the first school that had a comprehensive computer program. So I've always been spoiled. You know, I, I got a hardened reality when I was out of Pittsburgh. New York, I never really experienced that. But I did stuff in Miami, did stuff in LA, and they made it known that you better know that you're part of the racial welcoming or process, because if you didn't, you would be put in your place very, very quickly.
yes, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely.
I remember we had a math class in high school, and our math teacher's name was Mr. Edward Lees. I'm not going to throw any names at him because it doesn't mean, but he wasn't really that academically astute. So he would put a problem on the board, and when he would go to the teacher's lounge to smoke a cigarette, I'd go up and correct the problem. So when he come back in, they start laughing. They said, who changed this? And Robert Simpkins would say, Aubrey changed it. he would turn around and say, Mr. Bruce, let me teach the people. I'm in 9th grade.
Hey,
So
too
the kind of
slow.
that we
You
had,
still
right?
got to go. So, part of your development also meant you left Pittsburgh and you went to New
Yeah.
York. Tell us about the motivation to go to New
Well,
York. What was it like when you first got there? What did you
well, I was
experience?
blessed
Things
that
like
we,
that.
as we had Charles, but we had relatives in New York. We had Zonnie and Bumpy, and we had cousins that owned the funeral home, a couple funeral homes, and also they had about 60 or 70 school buses, right? So they were transporting students. So they were, in terms of Black American wealth standards, they were pretty cool from an affluent standpoint. But when I first got to New York, my mother and my father, that's why I think I call them saints, because there was a bar in Pittsburgh called Nats, and then my mother and father, they put the money together secretly. Nobody knew it, for me to go to New York. I stayed in the Y for 3 months. Then I got a job, and one of the first things I did, John Mosley called me and said, he was the concert master with Ubiquity, Roy Ayers. Everybody loves the sunshine. Well, he was the concert master. He went to Shinley too. So he left Shinley and went to New York. So he got me a gig up there, and I followed him to New York. But the thing is, New York was just so progressive, man. You could do anything you wanted to do, period. Anything you wanted to do. And I had booked some small stuff in Pittsburgh, some small musical stuff, but the great Roy Ayers, it gave me some opportunities to do some other things, like be his assistant tour manager and that type of thing. And I didn't have any experience as a tour manager, period. Point blank. I was a writer, football player. That's it. The thing about it was New York is they're not haters. Like I said, hey bro, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Then I walk away 10 feet in LA. Oh, I don't want to see that Negro, blah, blah, blah. Why are you talking to me? In New York, they see you walking towards you, they didn't like you, they cross the street. They didn't even
Then
want to
the,
contact you. But I was so cool and laid back. If I had a sandwich, I'd give somebody else half a sandwich. We stayed at Phyllis. Let me tell you who stayed at Phyllis Hyman's house at one time. Winfred Marcellus, Barry Timpkins, Tony Campbell, Norman Connors. We're all sleeping on the floor in Phyllis Hammond's, in her other apartment. Because Norman had got to some trouble with the record company. We're all sleeping on her floor, eating corned beef sandwiches. You have one piece of bread for a sandwich, and you put a little mustard on. We ate that for 2 months, right? But that's how we were in New York. And to be honest, that's how we were in Pittsburgh until Pittsburgh reverted to the Birmingham of the North. We were always friend and family oriented, you know what I mean, in Pittsburgh. And I know you're a proponent of that. I am such a deep. What's your name again? Now, Joseph, how could I adopt my nephew and get the name messed up, right? But anyway, Joseph, your thing was different, because in the Bahamas and in Jamaica and the Caribbean, man, those kids went to school every day with white shirts, ties. It wasn't no, my shoes is better than your shoes. They went to school to get the
uniform.
education. So that was mirrored when I was growing up. We had people, Aunt Viola Coleman, and these folks who were from the South, minimally educated, but made sure that we got what we needed, whether it was spiritual, financial, social. And that's why I explained to people about the Caribbean, is that they are more formally indoctrinated toward education, with economics. And I lived in both places, so I can kind of talk from experience. So that was one of the things that I looked at as a great countercultural thing, And so when God allowed me to navigate between music and journalism, wow, period. And here I am, a poor Black boy from Lawrenceville, PA, right, who produced interviews on Rick James, Angela Bofield. I mean, not people that was doing golden oldies. These were people in the height of their career. I'll tell you a funny story about Charles. I was producing an interview on Rick James for Access Television. And so I called myself getting some brownie points for Rick. I was like, my nephew, he says, you're his idol. But stop in the middle of us walking. Said, I don't idolize anybody. So of course, I was kind of scared up that right. I just hope the boy don't cut my access. Man, he tried to offer Charles a bill. Because Charles was so cool, he started offering him a
What?
beer. And I said, no, Rick, he's 16. He can't drink. Rick said, he's pretty knowledgeable to be 16. I'm at a point in my life that doing this is more valuable to me because I've been on ESPN, NFL Network. You can Google it, you'll see it. But my point is, this is more valuable to me because those people are they make me ashamed because I gave ESPN, NFL Network, doing interviews with them. I gave them my knowledge for free. I didn't get paid, right? Only thing I did a thing with the black quarterback with Maria Taylor's people, and I got paid. But with you and Charles, I'm getting paid by my social and political acumen because I know you guys are going to take it farther. Then I was just doing it to get airtime. But excuse me, that's where I'm at now. I interviewed Frank Robinson. It's on the if you Google Aubrey Bruce and Frank Robinson, you'll see the interview, part of it. And I asked him, I said, when he talked to Jackie Robinson, I said, Mr. Robinson, I said, what did you take from Jackie Robinson's connection interviews? He said, Jackie taught me that whatever you do in sports is going to be the catalyst because people are introduced with allowing black people to do things in sports first. They get to see it on TV, so they become more accustomed to it. If you throw them out there cold, this black doing it in this corporation, or they'll say, wow, why is that Negro the vice president? But if you see Jackie Robinson stealing home, it kind of softens the blow for them culturally. So that's why I think sports helps break the ice from a cultural perspective to help us enter the door and get into the market, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah. And one thing about it, 1:00 p.m., that's when everybody comes together.
Exactly.
We all rooting for one.
That's
one
right.
goal.
That's right. That's right.
And it's amazing. But as soon as that game's over,
It's back to the
After that, what the dad used to say, chatter don't matter after the horse done fell.
he said so many things. It was funny. That's one of my signatures on my email. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. But it doesn't do him any justice because it wasn't just the words; it was how he said
Yeah.
it. It would almost it would have almost a musical
Oh, yeah.
quality, but he would almost whisper it.
Yeah,
It
he
was
was so
funny.
soft spoken, and that was scary. I was talking stuff to him one time. When you get to be 15, 16, you feel your age. I'm bench pressing 250 and all that stuff. So he said something to me, and I was like, what? He had a 45 that had a barrel on it about 2 feet long, and it took him 2 minutes just to get the gun out. He got the gun out. He said, "What you say?" I said, "I don't recall."
Now, you said something. You emphasized your father happens to be my grandfather. That's one thing that we all three have in common. We had strong father
Right.
figures in our lives. What did having a strong father figure in your life mean to you in a sometimes tumultuous world? What did that mean?
Well, Joe and I know have a common denominator. People don't realize from a spiritual and aesthetic perspective, okay, we have the yin and the yang. We have the Y chromosome. Everything is split into two. Whether it's chromosomes, whether it's yin, whether it's yang, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, you're going to have a dividing line. Now, either we socially take that dividing line or break it open and cause it to divide wider, or we take it and we kind of smooth over the seam of hot and cold and integrate both structures of our spirituality, but also of our being. If we have too much on the yin side, it's unbalanced. We have too much on the yang side, it's unbalanced. But we had fathers, you, Joe, and I had fathers who knew how to bridge that gap, with our mothers. And that's the father is the bridge builder. Once he builds the bridge, then the wife or the mother can come back across that bridge for some of the greater things in terms of marriage. So we all had fathers who were bridge builders. And that's what makes us unique individuals as we progress in age and spirit.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, sir. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say each one of us had a mother right beside our fathers and were very prominent in their life and very significant in ours.
Yes.
So, one of the underlying things about this particular show is we we kind of highlight, I guess you could say, old-fashioned organic family. As I was just sitting here listening to you talk, I was just thinking about how blessed we are to have come down like a similar
Mhm.
road, similar development. Talk about talk about your mom, my grandmother. Talk about her for me for a second.
Henrietta Bruce, well, she like it's like the Creole enunciation. Henrietta is Henriette in French. So every now and then she would kind of correct somebody, but she never tripped on it. But like I just said, our fathers built the bridge so our mothers could carry the bridge back to us. I mean, carry the goods back to us. And she was the ultimate warrior. Our mothers were the ones who put the salve and the balm on the spiritual and mental wounds that our fathers had to go through just to provide income to raise us. And so that's what she was. She was the facilitator of wellness. And as you know, most of our mothers have to be that. And when they combine that wellness structure with the economic stability structure of our fathers, we can't lose. But the main thing is our mothers never try to compete with our fathers. In this day and age, in the days of cryptocurrency, these women will tell men, hey, you can go somewhere, I make more than you. You can go on about your business. And that's their mantra. That's their go-to. That's their cliche. I never heard my mother say, "Oh, I don't need you. I'm beautiful. I'm high yellow. I can go out there and get me any type of man I want." And she could have, right? Yeah, I had a math teacher. I'm already bad in math. My father, my brothers, they're mathematicians. They're electricians. But my math teacher every day wanted, I'll come home and tutor you, right? My father told him one day, and I remember just like it was 30 seconds ago. My father said, look, I'm an inspector. That's when he was inspector for the city of Pittsburgh, electrical inspector. He said, Aubrey don't need no tutoring. I got it. He don't need to be tutored.
Just
Yeah,
like
he don't
that.
need to be tutored. Mom with the straight black, crisp black hair, hourglass shape. No, what I need you, you're trying to tutor yourself, and that's what they did to us. You're trying to get some tutor on how to get in. That's what. But what happened? A lot of black folks, they would just take for granted what the white folks would say. Somebody else, oh, you need a tutor. Oh yeah. He gonna help my boy succeed. But we don't need them to elevate us. We elevate ourselves. And that's the key. A lot of us, and I know, Joe, you're a very, very accomplished and academically astute brother. And what I refuse to do is to point the racial fingers at folks, because you know what? We can do it. We can
That's
do
right.
it. We don't need no detractors, and we don't need no supporter when it comes to our success. We have the means spiritually, mentally, and intellectually to do it ourselves. And when we accept the fact, people talk about Android. They don't even know what the term means. Android means basically a robot or robotic thing that's taking on characteristics of something human. So they make it robotic, but in the sense that it's not human, but they sculpturalize it to be human. They think because we look at these phones, it makes us more human. That's not true. It takes away from our feelings of empathy and sympathy. Because now we can send an emoji. We can send something. We can send a text message that means nothing. I could be sending you a text message and have my middle finger up. You can't. Yeah,
Symbolism, different type of
that's right.
symbolism.
It's nothing. It means nothing. For example, people talk about, and let me put myself in this. I love the internet. I do. I love it. But when I was working at PNC Bank, the first thing we had to learn for the whole year was create our programming in COBOL and DOS. Why? Because Windows and all that, it was new. And if that system crashed, we'd have to write in the information COBOL and DOS to bring the system back up. Period.
Yep.
These folks now are like McDonald's internet folks. McDonald's, remember we couldn't count. They would put the hamburger would look like this, the cheeseburger would look like this. So that's what they're doing. In Windows, they're clicking on different symbols and coming to different applications. But Windows ever goes down, all that stuff goes. They don't know how to write a program in COBOL or DOS.
Mm,
And that's what they did to us. They centralized it but they immunize us from going further from an intellectual standpoint.
That's right.
So that's what I'm saying. And Charles, myself, and you were fortunate enough. We have something to fall back on. But how many men in our society are fortunate to have the background that we have?
Not too many. Not too many. Not too
Yeah,
many.
I'm gonna take this ham boning and I'm going to go ahead and take that to the hilt. I'm gonna take it to, you know,
Yeah. It's
me
serious.
and Clarence Thomas. We're gonna go straight to the moon, ham
Yeah, oh
boning.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right, that's right. You can call it bone marrow, because they get beyond the bone. They want the marrow, period.
In all seriousness, though, you touched on, I guess, a racial component, just living, I guess, in America. But I know you don't. I believe you don't totally think that racism isn't of consequence. But I wonder if you agree with me whether or not our particular community, the Black community, is at a crossroads. But more importantly, if we are in a crossroads, what can we do
I think our
as men in particular? What
I
can we
think our
do?
own. See, for me, Joe has the distinct advantage of not being raised up in our particular poison racial component. Now, there's some racism that goes on in the islands. We know that. But it's of a component that we don't have. And that is that
Mm.
that self-initiation, self-serving component that we don't have to find and say, well, the white culture and the European or Eurocentric paradigm caused this. Yeah, it did, but we have to get over it. I look at Charles, I look at you, I look at myself. I told people I quit writing about the Negro Leagues probably about 25 years ago, because I told people every time I wrote about the Negro Leagues, it's like my mother being raped, and then they make a movie about it, and like a movie about it every year to remind me. You see what I mean? That you ain't nothing. You couldn't stop your mother from being raped, but it's reality. So they try to make reality mesh with current, and that's like even with the gang violence, they gave a certain race of people. We're not talking about millions. We're not talking about billions. We're talking about trillions of dollars to perpetuate the gang violence. And so it made it normal. In the 80s and 90s, everybody was still taken aback when my cousin was shot down or my uncle. But now it was like they get balloons and they get sweatshirts. Rest in peace, such and so, and then release the balloons. The balloon companies and the sweatshirt companies are making that money. If they took that same money and reinvested in the community, it would be far less balloons being released, would be far less rest in peace t-shirts being worn. But they're about the external. They're about things that don't really mean. Rest in peace in the balloons, that's after the fact. What did you do to keep it from happening? So they think it's being empathetic. They think it's being sympathetic because such and so, you ever hear this? Such and so was killed. Oh, we're going to miss his loving smile, or we're going to miss everybody in the room laugh when he came in. Obviously, somebody didn't laugh, right? Somebody didn't like him because they killed him. So, I mean, you're talking about, he looked good. Black people have another thing, Sam. What did they look like? I'm dead in the coffin. Did he look good? Well, not necessarily, because you don't look good in the coffin. You cannot pay homage to the Undertaker. And that's what we do every day.
It's funny. I just heard a song that I never heard from Cool J today. A song called Homicide.
Oh yeah.
And he talked about the same thing, how you look in a casket and the person doesn't look the same. He looks plastic, according to LL. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, there's nothing like life.
Right.
There's nothing in death that you can replicate and make it appear lifelike. I don't think. Just
Hey, Uncle. So you mentioned that you wrote about the Negro League. Of course, the whole league was dismantled. Where do you think baseball would be today if had it been able to continue all the way through? Like, we would still have a Negro League.
Well, Joe, for example, like I said, you're blessed because you're from Jamaica, right?
No, I'm from the islands of Haiti. Haiti.
Okay. Oh yeah, Papa Doc, my boy. They talk about Papa Doc being so corrupt. This person that's in the office now is 100 times more corrupt than Papa Doc, right? If not more. All right. See, they hated Papa Doc because Papa Doc was it was Sade would say Papa Doc was a smooth operator. They didn't like it. He was a player, not a slayer. Period. He was, and when people tell me, Aubrey, you're incorrigible. You liked him. Yeah, I liked him. Yeah, had me a girlfriend.
A lot of people didn't like him, but you know what? He was kind of like he was a no, he didn't
No
tolerate anything
nonsense.
from anybody
No
from any
nonsense.
country.
No nonsense.
Nothing from nobody, and no other country can bully
The
him.
people in Haiti wasn't starving in the streets. They might have been poor. Haiti was a poor country, but they were not. Because I've been there. I know. They were not. Everybody got a hustle in the Caribbean. In Jamaica, in the Bahamas, Haiti, because it's a tourism-based economy. So that's what they do. But man, it's like if Papa Doc had been alive and this earthquake and hurricane stuff had happened, man, they'd have been rebuilt by now. Because he wasn't going to stand for it.
Yeah,
He wasn't going to stand for it.
that's right. That's right. That's right. There's so many other things going on behind the scenes as to why Haiti's in the condition that it's in today.
Yeah, they wanted the
That
game. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Centuries.
And do you remember in the middle of the 19th century when Haiti first got their independence, and we had some, I say we because I consider Haitians my brothers. When we had an earthquake and volcano stuff in Haiti, and the people right before Abraham Lincoln had said that it was the curse that God put on Haiti for fighting for their freedom and gaining their freedom. What about the wildfires, the hurricanes, the tornadoes that America experienced? Haiti experienced that situation once in 100 years. We're experiencing that
That's right.
every 6 months. There's a volcano,
Regular
wildfire. If they're
flooding.
demonic through that particular social and economic situation, in America, they got to be Satan's footstool.
It's true.
So
It's true.
I'm saying
It's
they
true.
always attach something, whatever the situation is, the Eurocentric paradigm always puts the negative albatross, around the shoulders and the neck of a society with people of color. That's just the way they do it.
Back to America. What do you think we can do as a community to coalesce?
To what?
To coalesce, unify, come together.
What we're doing now, the main thing, I was at a conference in San Francisco about 4 years ago, and the theme was not stop the violence, it was stop the silence. And Reverend, it will stop the silence.
Deep.
Not stop. And believe me, and our mantra was when we left the conference and went back to our respective homes, wherever we were from, our goal was to speak to and shake the hands of 20 Black people a day that we didn't know. And I've been doing it for 3 years.
Man, that is great. I mean, that's one of my personal things that I really like to do myself.
Right.
Just crank up a conversation with a stranger.
Exactly.
Recognize them, acknowledge them. There's no better way to exchange kinship. I also see one of the things, if it's evident off of social media, is men and Black women are pointing fingers in response to our failure to maintain families across the board. That's what it seems like. Does that sound reasonable?
Well,
how can we come together with our sisters?
If they were just pointing fingers, I might be okay with that. But they're pointing cannons.
Mhm.
They're not just pointing fingers. They're pointing cannons. See, that cannon, once you destroy it, once you blow my flesh up, you cannot put it back together. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humphrey together again. And so I'm saying, once we blow each other up, that's it. game, set, match. And you got the sisters out here, man, you're like, they got generations of blown up black men. Oh, he's in prison. Your dad, but he ain't no good. He got blah, 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 blah. So you got 70, 80 years of that. Now it's coming to a head. You know, now these black women, I heard 2 black women on the plane when I was coming back from Atlanta. No, from Baltimore. This is a couple years ago. The one was talking about how she was going to go back home, and basically she had one guy paying the phone bill, one guy paying the cable bill, one guy paying the rent. And I was sitting there, man, my hand on my Bible, Lord Jesus. I was shaking, man. I was shaking. It had me so messed up, man. I mean, the conversation I could have dealt with, but the coldness, oh man, it got me. It got me. The temperature of the conversation just hit me, right? And but there's some brothers out there that's knuckleheads, you know.
Right.
They get up every day
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
One brother said in Cali, he had impregnated like 80-some women.
Oh my God.
And that was a trophy. And some brothers was like, yeah, man. I'm like, man, get out of my face with that.
That's right.
Period. Get out of my face. My Uncle Will, my mom, they was talking about, you know, old ladies, you get in the room and talk, and they make the kids go outside. So they made us go outside, and they had a window, but they had little screens they put in the window, you know, to keep the fresh air coming in. And I heard my mother and my aunt and them talking, and my mother said, my grandfather said, if a man was meant to have 2 women, he'd have 2 penises.
Wait a minute.
Exactly. So the stupidity, now I'm not gonna say stupidity, the insensitivity is from the male and female. And what we need to do, we need to get with each other. My dad used to say, just act. I mean, my dad had this thing, everybody had, a lot of them had it, but they had a rule that they try to do the best they could. You know, they may have disagreements, but they try to do the best they could in front of their kids. Sometimes they didn't always succeed, but the point is, at least they made an effort. Now they don't make no effort. Google the guy who let his baby die of starvation because he said he didn't know he was supposed to feed the baby. Yeah, just Google.
It's not enough.
The baby died because he didn't know he was supposed to feed the baby. And what hit my heart, it was a brother, you know.
Sad. Yeah. That's sad.
I know I'm going kind of long with y'all, but
No. This is good information. You know, I like the stop the silence model.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can stop the violence is stop the silence.
I know on a personal individual, my personal individual effort, when I hear it being done, like, you know, man hurling the B word, I try to get a man to stop and think. Like this one person I know, he has 2 daughters, just like me. He's single, but he continually uses this B word. And I'm like, man, don't you have 2 daughters? How would you feel if somebody calls your daughters the B word? He would be upset. You know, he would be, he would totally get out of pocket. And I was just like, yeah, we got to stop the casual devaluation of our people. You know what I mean? I try to attack faulty arguments whenever I get an opportunity on both sides, men and women. And one of the things I always hate is like how people use generalities to make a point. You know, using generalities to make a point and saying things that cannot be readily verified.
Well, go ahead, Joe. I want to hear you, bro.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. How we speak to each other, we should be able to elevate each other, not downgrade each other. Even if you're saying it because you grew up saying these things and it was hit and it's part of your vernacular or the way that you speak amongst your friends. When you start to learn about what's right and wrong, you know, and you start to grow out of your adolescence, it's time to start saying and doing the right things. You know, we need to elevate each other, not talk down to each other. And that goes not only to people in your family, but to everybody across the board. And those practices will start to change the trajectory of the world and how society communicates and treats each other. I mean, even to this day, we're still looked upon a certain way. So certain people, avoid, don't speak, or they'll clutch their
Yeah,
purse
yeah,
when we come around, or they walk faster to get away from you because they feel a certain type of way. And I think that comes from the communication part.
yeah, yeah. hmm And the thing that if I can piggyback on what you're saying, when you are exposed to different cultural environments, okay, people have the excuse, well, they were raised that way. You don't have to remain that way. When
Mhm.
you become an adult, you can change. See, and what they do, it's a smokescreen for women clutching their purses, because we may steal a few dollars here and there. They steal generations, right? I mean, they're grabbing onto they're
Sure.
grabbing onto the money. The money's a byproduct. 1619, when we at Jamestown, our ability to barter and connect economically was gone, because now we quit buying products and we became the products. And how can you set a value on something when you don't know what the value is? So we took their value system, we became like sponges that were just wet with inequality and just soaked in mysticism, and we took that and sponge soaked in all the new values, and that's what we became. Even when you take that sponge or rag and you wring it out, when it dries, it's going to still be some left over. So they thought they were running out when they emancipated slaves. They thought, well, we got rid of it now, and they run, but it didn't happen. When it dried out, it still had those byproducts, and we're dealing with the byproducts right now of slavery in America.
That's
Yes,
deep.
we are. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And it's hard, it's so hard to shake too. It's like it's so hard to get the mass,
Yeah,
most of our community to shake it. And it's like, if you pointed out resistance,
exactly.
you know what I'm saying? It's just, we are so enthralled with chasing that quote unquote bag,
Yeah,
chasing money, that we will sell everything wholesale to chase the money. As great as our musical influence has been, I'm hard pressed to find labels that are owned by Black
yeah,
people.
yeah. Superficially, they are on the surface, but when you pull back those layers, man, you have people of the Judaism paradigm that it was. You see, I'm not going to go any further than that. Let me tell you how deep it is. I was in Europe about maybe 8 years ago. With one of my friends in Pittsburgh. He has a studio here, but he's the head of the housing authority. They built 4 studios for unfortunate Black kids, and they record there for free. So the drug dealers can't say, I'm gonna give you $2,000 to make this record. So we have 4 studios, and I helped start the program. And I was in Europe, we hanging out, partying, doing our thing. But when we got to church, the whole theological paradigm was different. Right? The chapels and 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 the churches were quiet. They'd be singing Catholic aria, right? And it was such spirit you could feel. And our church now is, hey, Jesus over here, Jesus over there. Why? I ask people, why do you do that? Well, we have to make our spirituality more attractive to young kids. You let the young kids do their rap and do whatever it is their music is and let them enjoy it, right? But when they walk in that church, you got to set some boundaries. Because they go back in the street, they'll say, what's the difference between church and the street? Because I could be over party over here at G's stripper lounge, then I come into church party over here. What's the difference? The only difference is you don't give the stripper the money, you give the preacher the money.
Amen. that that has
Hey,
proven so true. Unfortunately, just listening, music, religion, or all tenets of really, whether you agree with any of them or not, music, religion, that's tenets of culture.
It's all interwoven into the same fabric.
And our culture's
Oh, yeah.
sick. Our culture is sick. Based on those two tenets,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
sick.
Yeah. And if you're sick, when you learn what the pathogen is, when you learn what the germ is, then you can create or find an antibiotic or antigen that'll help cure you. But if you keep coughing, one woman I saw about a month ago, she's coughing on the train. So I moved. She said, "Oh, you don't have to move. There's allergies." I said, "I don't know too many flowers to grow in December. I don't know too much pollen circulating in December. I don't know whether it's an allergy or not. I know I'm getting away from it." And that's like,
you just don't want to catch what
that's
she
right.
got.
Yeah. Whatever you got.
But we make excuses in life.
you know.
Things bad happen. Joe, Charles told me, man, some wonderful things and great things about you, your persona, your academia. And I said, that brother sounds like my type of fella.
That's
But
right.
but when
Yeah.
you can, but when you connected me with Charles, see, you already connected with me in another persona with Charles, because we're basically almost Siamese twins, right? In the sense of how we, you know what I
I
mean?
see it.
So
Yeah, I see
it's
it.
like
Yep.
you connected with me automatically when you connect with him, even from afar. You didn't know you were, but like I told one brother, I said, "Hey, how you doing, brother?" He said, "Do I know you?" I was like, "I've known you for 1,000 years." Simple as that.
He
And Charles,
Well,
I'm so blessed by him because he has never introduced me to a knucklehead. Never. Because he knows my
no.
barbecue pit is fired up, it's hot, and they get ready to get ate. They get ready to get consumed. And they come near me with any nonsense, they're going to be consumed, period.
Well, I always find people who are smarter than me better company. So that's where you guys come in. I rely on y'all really. So that's what it's about with me. I like to learn from a myriad of sources.
Well,
You know
that
what I
could be
mean?
true esoterically and externally, but where I find fault with that analogy is this. Chef Uncle Peanut's going to bake Joe and Charles a cake, right? Now, if Joe's the eggs, if Charles is the flour, if Uncle Peanut is the baking powder, if somebody else is the salt and pepper, somebody else the vanilla flavor, we each are a specific ingredient that contributes to the whole, right? Now, if I take away your flour, I take away the eggs, and I bake a cake, they're gonna say this is nasty. It doesn't have all the ingredients. So what makes the social parameters real is that now when they get all of us together collectively, it's a pretty good cake. Period. I mean, the flour component, and the flour may be more, maybe more flour than the 2 eggs, but if you put 2 teaspoons of flour in the mix, you ain't gonna have nothing. The flour is a binder. The baking soda, whatever, it coagulates in terms of providing the rising agent. So all of us together are the ones that bake the real cake, not one being better than the other or more or less than the other. That's just how I look at it.
Yeah, and you can adapt that to
That's
society
right.
and
Mhm.
how we can grow together as
That's
one.
right.
Right.
And you asked the question.
We've been divided far
That's
too
right.
long.
That's right. And Joseph, we need
Well,
you and Charles to really, because you guys are the younger guys. We need you to really be part of that coalescence. I told Charles that now that I have seen my mortality, right? And I understand that. So instead of me sitting around saying, "Lord Jesus, help me live another 40 years," I'm saying I'm gonna get the most out of this, as now what I can. I'm not gonna waste energy begging for a longer life, because you know what? As long as I'm productive, then when I leave, I know that you and Charles are gonna carry on. So it's a question of, you guys are You're an inheritance, and you really don't know it. When God calls me, the only inheritance I have for them is you. Period. And that's how it is. Until we call less, then we will never, until we stop the silence, we will never be where we're supposed to be.
Amen.
Amen. So I've had a really good time today. I just want to say thank you for joining us. Very thankful for you because of the wisdom that you shared, the love that you shared, the strength that you display. And I'm awfully proud of you. I've always been very proud of you. But before we go, just if you have a final thought that that you'd like to share, we would love to hear that.
I'm writing, people have been getting on me for 20 years. Write your memoir. But I said, look, I ain't trying to do that. But I started a memoir like in August. It's called Lost Legacy. I just explained, a lot of people talk about the Keller line and baseball. They have no idea what it means. And I'm hoping when we get together again, I can kind of expand on that stuff. Because I got so excited about what we were doing and some of the things I knew that were important to all three of us. So I got a little long-winded, which I apologize to your listeners for that. But hopefully we can get together and converse again. But the main thing is that I have something very simple. I want to tell all of us who are entrepreneurs, all of us who've worked, all of us who are striving to be successful financially. I have one final thought. Don't chase money. Let money chase you.
I'll take that. And I will take that. Don't chase
Amen.
money. Let money chase you. Joe, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I want to thank you for taking your time out for joining us in this conversation and sharing your insights and your wisdom on, society, the intellectual, the community, the different methods that we can, unify with each other, and pretty much simply on how to elevate each other. It's important. Elevating each other and trying to do more positive things than what is going on in society today.
And Joe,
I want to thank
Joe, I thank you. Before we go, Joe, do you see the background behind me?
I do. Yeah, you have some really nice pictures back.
One at the top, you see me with a microphone and a microphone? Right in the middle on top.
I thought
Right
that
above
was
his head.
Muhammad Ali.
No, a lot of people said
That's
that. I'm like,
not
no, that's
Muhammad
me.
Ali.
I was young.
As a
Okay.
young, yeah,
I was a young
Wow.
brother.
Okay.
Charles
he
shot that
thought you was
photo.
James Brown.
And one right next
Oh,
door,
he
he
thought
shot.
Who took that
Charles.
photo?
He shot both of them.
Wow.
He
Okay.
shot that one and he shot the one next to it.
Nice. Okay.
So, Joe, keep me
Cool.
in
And
prayer.
yeah,
And you and I and Chuck, we're going to have to make a trip to Haiti. As soon as they get themselves squared away,
yeah. Especially in the north.
because
Yes.
I'm admit one thing. My second girlfriend in college was Haitian, and I almost lost my mind. So that being said, I'm ready to go.
All right.
Well,
Cool.
let me just say that this is the Unconscionable podcast. We can be reached 7828421. If you have any comments, questions, criticisms, we don't mind the criticisms. We'll talk about your mama if we don't like it.
Yeah.
But
You get you married, I'll talk
I
about
just want to say, I gotta say this though before I go. Very flawed man, but I'm confidently flawed. I will run into a wall. My confidence came from a couple men, one being primarily my father and the other one being Aubrey Bruce, who taught me to just really not have any fear. So I'm thankful for that, for being the type of man I am. I always feel like I'm going to make it no matter what the circumstances. And that comes from Charles Thomas Sr. as well as Aubrey Bruce. And just on my way out, I would just like to say that approximately 1 year ago, I think it was the 6th of December, I lost one of my best friends. So I was just sitting here thinking about him. So I would like to just make mention of Brad MacArthur Simmons. I used to tease him about his name, Nick MacArthur, but just thinking about you, bro, until we meet again. And
Rest.
that, thank you very much, Hunk. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right.
Love you, bro.
Okay. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, Wakanda forever.
Lunar
That's right.
Life Production. Oh, somebody's at the door.